How do you buy REO properties? First off, let's talk about what REO is. REO stands for real estate owned. And the reason that it's called that is when a bank or a lending institution loans money, if that comes back to them, it comes back as an asset as real estate owned, which may sound like a good thing, but if you're a lending institution, that's not how you make your money. So it's actually kind of a bad thing. It's also something that the government regulators are looking at in their making determination of how healthy the bank actually is their percentage of REO properties that they actually own against the lending pool, because they actually want it to be liquid versus illiquid. That's probably more than you wanted to know, but that's REO. What most people don't understand is REO is only the very tail end of what's called a foreclosure process. So let's talk about the foreclosure process as a whole. So first off, you've got this house, okay? And you've got Bill and Sally. We'll just call it Bill for now. So you've got Bill that lives in the house. If Bill misses a payment, he gets a 30-day notice. He'll also get a 30-day late on his credit at some point here. It probably takes 30 more days or something. And then he's going to get, next up is a 90-day. If he misses his 90-day, he's going to get that. He's going to get a 60-day notice as well. And then he's going to get a 30, 60, and 90-day late on his credit report. Okay. This could go on for who knows how long. It really depends on the lending institution, their policies, how they handle it, how they're financed with that, all kinds of things. But at a certain point of time, what's going to happen, and it's going to be different anytime after the 30, 60, 90 days, they typically look at anything over 120 is when they look at stuff and say, okay, we're going to begin the process of foreclosure. Now, they may take much longer than that, but typically no sooner than 120 days. They have the right to, but they typically, 120 days is when they're saying, hey, this is really in default. Okay, what the lending institution is going to do is they're going to do a notice of default, or what's called a lis pendens. Legal action, depending upon which states it's in. So a notice of default is going to be for a foreclosure state, a non-judicial foreclosure. And a lis pendens is going to be for a judicial foreclosure. What that basically means is the process of the bank to take their asset back from the person that they lent the money to, which is basically Bill. So notice of default or lis pendens. One side note, in our software, you can pull up properties that have notice of defaults recorded or have lis pendens recorded. So that is a great way to actually find properties. We'll talk more about that here in just a minute. Okay, so notice of default happens, and then at some time later, and it's going to depend on, and these are days, like 120 days, these are days, right? This is time period, okay? Some point after that notice of default happens, the next thing that's going to happen is what's going to call a notice of sale. Notice of sale. And basically what that says, at this date, at this time, we'll be selling the property. Now, that's going to be done inside the courtroom or outside the courtroom. If it's a non-judicial foreclosure state, it's going to actually happen at the courthouse steps in most counties, and it's going to be auctioned to the highest bidder. Let's talk about how that works a little bit. So let's say that the bank is owed $150,000, but then they've got late fees of $50,000, and they've spent some money cutting the grass because Bill just abandoned it or something like that. So they're into this thing $210,000. That's what's owed, okay? Now, the bank will come in and they will start the bid at a certain amount. They could start the bid at any amount that they really want to start it for. Lots of times they'll start the bid either at the original balance that's owed to them, or they will start it with the total balance that's owed to them, 210, okay? What the bank's going to do is they will counter anybody else until they get up to whatever this dollar amount is. Because between here and here, whatever the bank bids on this property, if they end up getting the property back, let's say they bid 200, but they're owed 210 and they're the highest bidder at 200, then they become the owners of the property. However, they can't go after the borrower for more than the difference of what they bid. So if their highest bid was 200, then they can't go after them for that $10,000 that they may want to. They can't go after Bill for that. Let me explain that one more time. whatever the bank gets the property at is the maximum amount they can go after bill for, but they're going to have to subtract how much they have from the sale of the property. Now, it'll be a net sale minus commissions and those types of things, and what's left is a default amount, and that's the amount they can go after bill. So if they bid $150,000, but they really lost $210,000, they can't go after bill for more than $150,000 minus what they get from the sale of the property. So that's how that works. But they can do a bid, they can start at this and bid their way up to a certain amount. Then whoever's the highest bidder, if it's over what the bank's bid is, let's say the bank's going to go up to 210 and somebody bids 215, then that person then is able to purchase the property for $215,000. Now it depends on the state, because some states have a redemption period, which means after the bid's done, the owner has some time where they can go pay it off in full, and if not, then it goes to them. That's going to be different in each state, or it may have no redemption period at all, like the state I'm in, which is the way I think it should be, because they've already had all this time to try and correct it. But here nor there, this becomes the bid, and then what happens is the bank gets all that money to pay for what's owed to them. So that's the process. Then what's happening is if nobody makes that highest bid, that's when, and the bank is the highest bidder, that's when it becomes an REO, or real estate owned. Once it becomes that real estate owned, typically before the notice of sale, this bank has assigned it to a real estate agent. Okay, and this agent has helped them do as much as they can. This agent has gone to the property to see if anybody's living there. If they have somebody living there, they may try and get them out with cash for keys and say, hey, we'll give you some money if you move out. And they may do that even after the REO sale as well, to try and understand the property. This real estate agent's going to try and secure the property either here or at the REO time, meaning change the locks and do those things. Now, they can't go change the locks if somebody's living there. If somebody's living there, they have to do an eviction process if somebody's living there, or they'll pay them money for them to move out and do what's called a cash for keys. Now, that could be the owner, or it could be a tenant that is in that property, or somebody that just happened to move in. The other thing that they're going to do is secure the property. If no one's living in the property, they're going to secure the property, meaning change the locks and those things. So the property's secure, board up windows if necessary, and secure the property so nobody gets in, nobody starts living in the property. The other thing they're going to do is they can start having somebody take care of the grass or take care of the snow removal and those types of things for the upkeep of the property. The other thing this real estate agent is going to do then is get bids for the work that's going to be done, and then they'll give all that information back to the bank, and they'll say, bank, here's a couple of scenarios for it. This is what the property's worth as is. If you just want to sell this property, I think we get $165 for it. If you want to fix this property up and you're going to dump another $50,000 into it, and here's the contractor bid, but we think you'll sell it for $250. And if you want to rent this property, this is the amount that you can rent it for, and you're going to spend $25,000 fixing it up. Most banks don't want to rent it, but occasionally they will. And so the real estate agent is doing that for the bank before the sale, and then they're going to relook at that after the sale, and then the bank's going to make a decision. Do we want to sell it as is? Do we want to put additional funds into that, or do we want to rent this property? Based upon that is how the real estate agent is going to proceed. If they decide to do work on the property, the real estate agent's going to work with those general contractors. They've typically gotten 3 bids to turn into the bank. And then what's going to happen is they'll get the work done, list the property on the multiple listing service, because they want to have it open. Because you've got to realize, if the bank has this, they want to have it on a public forum, because if they want to go after a default, they need to show that they got the best price possible. One of the ways of doing that is listing it with an agent. So that's what is called the foreclosure process. People focus in a lot of REO, but the reality is there's multiple ways to actually get somebody that's going through a foreclosure process. One of the first ways is this notice of default or lis pendens. The next way is this notice of sale. They're typically a lot more motivated in the notice of sale than they are in the notice of default, but there's an opportunity here. This is public record. Everyone knows that notice of default, if you can get access to the data, which we have in our software, and notice of sale is also public, so you can get access to those things as well, and you can see those properties that are in both those categories, which means you can start talking to these people well before it becomes an REO property, because once it becomes the REO property, really the agent's going to take care of it, list it on the multiple listing services, and then you could find that property also through our software, but you're looking at property that is now there to the masses. If you can take care of it or make a purchase in these, you'll probably get a better deal than you will once it actually comes onto the multiple listing services. So how do you buy a property that's REO? You can contact the bank directly, which doesn't have great success. You can try and find REO agents that specifically deal with real estate owned and talk to them and ask them about what properties they're working on, because they'll know about those ahead of time. You can work on it on a notice of sale, or you can work on it on a notice of default. And this is all about how you can buy REO properties or real estate owned. Okay, so I want to show you really quickly how you can actually find those notice of defaults, notice of sales. So let's just come and pick an area, and Atlanta, Georgia is on my mind because we've been talking about a few properties from there earlier today. Okay, so then what I can do is I can come here to a filter and I can find out what's happening with all of these properties that are in Atlanta, Georgia. So I come here to the filters, and okay, then we want to come down here to foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, right? And we're going to come in here and say include. So this is auction, default, bank owned. So notice the default or list pendants, auctions, default releases. So this is everything other than what's actually bank owned. So if we just look at the bank owned properties, they may be listed, they may not be listed. There's 544 bank owned properties. If we look at the notice of default, the auction, let's get rid of the default release. There's 284 properties. So you can look at those, and then with this, you can see all the details on this. Pre-foreclosure details, you can see what's going on. But you also can figure out who owns this property. And then what I can do is I can actually do a skip trace. So I can save this into a list. I can come here to skip trace, select contacts, and I can find whatever group I had her in. Oops, there's way too many contacts there. Let's do that. And then I can go through the process here. Add selected contact, done. I can do my skip trace next. It'll charge me for that, and then it will come back and give me whatever information we can have, and the most recent information. Contacts. So here's some skip trace. This gives you the name, the phone number, landline. It's going to give you whatever phone numbers they can possibly find for these, and if there's any other mailing addresses for that individual, that'll be found as well. So this is how you're going to take advantage of these pre-foreclosure, foreclosure, and REO properties. Let's go back. Let's go back here real quick to the search. Go to the filter. Let's see. Let's clear the filters. Let's just do bank-owned properties. So this is the total view. This is my specific lead list. Okay, so 544 that are bank-owned, and then I want to know what's listed on the MLS and what's listed for sale, not for rent. So there's 35 properties that are bank-owned that are on the market, okay? And then we've got 81 that are not, and then total, whether it's on the market, not on the market, is 116. But let's say they're not currently for sale. You're looking at 544, not for rent, not for sale. It could be everything. So this is the amount as of right now, how many properties are bank owned in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Now you may want to come in here and say, I want properties that don't have fewer than 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms. I don't want giant houses, so I'm going to put this at 5. I only want residential. And then I'm narrowing down. Now I've got 93 properties that are bank owned. I can also filter this to say, let's look at these that are actually on the MLS. And let's say that's on the market for sale. So here's 25 properties that are listed on the market that I could go make an offer to the agent for that I know is owned by a bank. Now, one of the things with these that's also important to realize is the bank is going to sell this property. Okay. So what they're going to do is they are going to keep lowering the property price until it actually gets sold. So let's look here. This is actually when the bank got the property back. That's who the lender was. Let's go over here to MLS details. Okay, so on 6/13, the price was $243. On 6/30, they put it at $209. 7/16, they put it to $182. 8/3, they put it to $165. Okay, so you can see the bank has taken the price from $243,000 to $165,000, just like that, and they're going to keep doing that until it gets sold.